so you will get a notification. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us for today's Spotlight series. Today we're going to highlight engineering management with Professor Bottlik. So I'm very excited to have all of you here with us today. My name is Erin Tanaka and I represent the Viterbi Admission and Student Engagement Office. And then I also have, of course, with me today, Professor Bottlik, who is going to provide some great insight into the engineering management program. I also have today with me here my colleague Marilyn Lau, who will be available to assist with any additional Q&A questions that we have, especially towards the end of the session. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so just a couple of quick notes. So for those of you that are joining us during this live session today via Zoom, I just wanted to send a couple of quick notes first. So during the session, feel free, I already saw some questions coming in, please use the Q&A panel. So I'm gonna actually type right in here to type in your questions right here in the chat section of Zoom. And then I will be actually holding off on those questions though until the end of the session when we will be doing a Q&A with Professor Bottlik. And then I also just wanted to let you know that you will receive a copy of today's presentation within 1 to 2 business days. So you will receive a follow-up email for anyone that has joined or has registered for this session. You will receive that follow-up email. And for those of you that are joining us via the recording or listening in the recording in the future, I just wanted to also note that the information is as of today, which is April 11th, 2022. So just keep in mind that some of the content will have been updated depending on when you actually watch this recording. All right, so let's go ahead. So for today's program, I am going to start out by talking a little bit about the University of Southern California, as well as specifically the Viterbi School of Engineering. And then we are going to go into the focus of today's presentation, which is going to be our Master of Science in Engineering Management. Of course, then Professor Bottlik will provide a program overview, as well as I'll go over the application criteria. And then I will also discuss Dennett Viterbi, which is our online delivery method, as well as the enrollment options. And then we'll go over tuition and funding briefly. And then at the end of the session, we will do a Q&A session with Professor Bottlik and go over some frequently asked questions as well. So you will have the opportunity to ask your questions on the spot for those of you that are joining us live. So just some snapshots of our beautiful campus if you haven't seen USC already. And a little bit about USC. So we are the oldest private university in the Western United States, and we're actually founded way back in 1880. Currently, we have over 49,000 students. And as you can see there, our graduate students actually outnumber our undergraduate student population. And we have over 4,700 full-time faculty members, and that come from all different disciplines and areas. And we have a number of faculty members that really also not are only those that are doing research, but also those that come from a variety of different industries and fields as well. And then we have a very diverse student population. So we have students from all over the nation, all over the world, all different walks of life. And so no matter where you go in the world, chances are there's a USC alumni somewhere nearby. We are also located in Los Angeles. So for those of you that are not familiar with Los Angeles or even the California, we are in Southern California, as our name implies. We are about a 10 to 15 minute drive from the downtown Los Angeles area. So we are in the middle of all the action, whether, of course, in engineering opportunities, computer science, technical areas. We're about a 45-minute, depending on traffic, drive from the Silicon Beach area as well. So we have lots of different opportunities surrounding us. But beyond that, USC is so well known to have connections throughout the world. And then in terms of the Viterbi School, so the Viterbi School of Engineering is one of the oldest and largest academic schools within USC, and we are comprised of 8 academic departments. In terms of our student population, as you can see there, our graduate student population far outnumbers our undergraduate students there. So that over 6,300 graduate students includes both our master's students, both online and on campus, our PhD students, as well as our graduate certificate students. Tied to that, we are also a leader in funded research. We have over 35 research centers. Talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And in terms of our faculty, we have 189 tenure track faculty members. We have 33 National Academy Engineering members, which is one of the greatest honors you can receive as an engineer. And we have over 90 National Science Foundation Career, National, and Presidential Young Investigator awardees. So in terms of the rankings, we do get asked sometimes, what are you ranked? So just wanted to share that we have consistently been ranked as a best graduate engineering school as a whole, but then specifically in the online arena, actually for the 10th year in a row, this year we have been consistently amongst the top 5 ranked, currently at the number 5 ranked for our online graduate computer information technology or computer science programs, as well as number 5 ranked for our online graduate engineering programs. Of course, that includes our engineering management program as well. And then I did see that some of you are active duty military or veterans, and so this may also be of interest to you, but we are also consistently ranked a best online graduate engineering program for veterans, currently at the number 3 spot for online graduate computer science for veterans, and then also at the number 5 spot for online graduate engineering for veterans, and specifically and across all 40 programs that we do offer online. Now, some just USC points of distinction that we do like to point out. So, as I mentioned, you have students from all over the world, but in addition to that, the Viterbi School has a reputation for excellence throughout the world. And we have a number of partnerships, whether governmental, corporations, et cetera. And so, our influence in it and what we're known for is known no matter where you go. And what that really means for you is if you graduate with a Viterbi School degree, I mean, it has value no matter where you go. And also, in addition, USC alumni are all part of the Trojan Family Network, and that's comprised of over 88,000 engineers strong. And so, all the time, whenever I travel, and I'm sure Professor Bottlik can attest to this too, but you come across Trojans all the time, no matter where you go, and there are very strong connections there, and it's a great perk to be part of the Trojan Family Network. And then we have all different types of programs available, everything from online, on-site, on campus, ranging from our bachelor's degrees up to our doctoral. For this session, we are going to focus though on our master's degrees and those that are specifically, or our master degree, I should say, that is offered both online and on campus, our engineering management program. And then we also have short courses and custom programs. If anyone is interested in those fall under our executive education offerings of continuing non-degree courses that we have, but that's separate from our graduate degree programs. Now, I did want to touch upon a little bit more about our research. So, the Viterbi School is a huge leader in the area of research. And so, it's highly interdisciplinary. So all different types of research going on, whether it's artificial intelligence, AI, of course, is huge right now, different, sensor networks, to all different areas that are of research that are being conducted, whether it's through the Information Sciences Institute, ISI, or Institute for Creative Technologies. And again, we have over 35 research centers with a number of partnerships and collaborations. So if you're interested in research and finding out, those areas, we do encourage you to go to our viterbischool.usc.edu website for more information about those various opportunities or in research areas. But today is really going to focus on the engineering management, Master of Science in Engineering Management program. And I'm very excited to have today with me here our very own Professor Giza Bottlik. He is the director of the engineering management program. He has degrees in mechanical engineering and a graduate degree from USC. He also has 34 years of industry experience, 24 at Xerox, as well as areas of computer design, research and physics, industrial engineering management, strategic planning, etc. And then over 30 years at USC, teaching courses, that highlight different areas from production planning, decision making, engineering economy, supply chain design. So he really is such an expert, and we are so proud to have Professor Bottlik as our, director, and as somebody that has been a huge influence for all of our students and our staff members. So with that being said, Professor Bottlik, you can take it away.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I should have you introduce me all the time, Erin. It makes me feel good about myself.
Well,
okay,
you're fantastic.
It's 32 years at USC, and I'm not quite that old. Some of the industry experience overlaps with my experience at USC. I was teaching at USC for the last 4 years, and I was at Xerox. Anyway, it's much less about me than it's about our actual our program, and I feel very, very good about having been asked to lead this program, which was about 15 years ago, because of course I was an engineer. I also was an engineering manager, and I did go through the transition from going from an individual contributor to being a manager, and then being a manager of other managers as well. And it was not an easy transition. And I think a lot of it has to do with what you are prepared for. And if you have an undergraduate degree in engineering, you're being prepared to be an engineer. You're not being prepared to be a manager. And maybe you never even think about wanting to be a manager. But when it really comes down to it, who are the engineering managers? Well, they're engineers who've developed a good reputation as an engineer. And so they get promoted. And they're not really prepared. That's really the whole point. And so it helps to become prepared, obviously. And so we do have a fair number of students, by no means the majority, who already have either starting management positions or aspiring to them. And they certainly can use this particular degree because of the kind of things that it exposes you to, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Now, you might wonder, if you're just coming out of undergraduate and you're taking a master's, is somebody going to give you a managerial job? Probably not. You'll have to prove yourself first. And but this actually makes you eventually more promotable. And I think that's the main value to it. Not only that, you grow in your own field as you go through this program, and of course mature into being a more competent professional. I know that most of us, when we're 22 or 23 and have just gotten our engineering degree, we think we know a lot. And then we go out and find out we don't really know quite as much as we thought we did. And we have a lot of learning to do. And this helps. It really helps. And many of you who come to USC also wind up getting some internships during summers. And of course, you get then the benefit of both being exposed to industry and also being exposed to management, and also being exposed to American industry. And I know that many of you are probably not first level English speakers. Neither am I. My original language is Hungarian. I went to school in Germany. I had to come to the US and learn English. So learning English is extremely valuable. In much of the world today, it's being used as the entry into most jobs. You either speak English or you don't. So that too, though, if you hone your English while you're here is a tremendous benefit. So I think that's kind of talked myself through this slide. So let me have the next one. Okay, I think it's pretty much the same things I was saying with the last one, but I think here I also want to talk a little bit about the size of our program, right? And size both matters, and it's also not good, because if you in a huge program, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. And fortunately for us, all our buildings are such, you can't cram more than 40 people into a classroom anyway. So your classes are generally going to be anywhere between 30 and 40, maybe 45 people at the most. Every once in a while, the class gets a little bit bigger, but then they're rare because we don't have a whole lot of rooms that are that big. So we generally graduate somewhere between 75 and 100 students a year. You know, things go up and down. The market for engineers changes, the market for managers changes, and the level of support that people can get, they all change. So that moves numbers up and down. But I've been at this for 15 years, and we've been as high as over 200, and we've been down to about 100 students at some point in time too. So, like I say, 75 is about the average. About 20% of those students are distant students, which means they never do come to campus. It's not that they're not welcome. They're very welcome at times. And some people come a long ways. I've had several students who came from Korean Air, and they lived in Korea. They took the classes there. And because they worked for an airline, they were actually able to come to campus about 2 or 3 times a semester just to actually have some participation. Our faculty are mostly industry faculty. That means that they are currently employed in large corporations locally, in general, of course, but all of them have been with us for at least 7 or 8 to 10 years, some 20 years, right? So it's not like they're part-time instructors. They're really full-time as far as a long-term experience in terms of teaching. And of course, they bring their current industry levels with them, which, I feel somewhat distanced from it, because it's been now 28 years since I retired from Xerox. And so I have much less contact with industry than most of the rest of our faculty. And of course, some of our faculty are tenure track experts in their field, especially in terms of decision-making, statistics, optimization. We have the very best in the world. Okay. The graduates find jobs. I can't tell you how many different jobs. They clearly, international students have a little bit more difficulty finding US jobs, but most of them do, right? And because most corporations, when they see they need people, they're willing to go to bat for you in order to get your working papers. Okay. And especially the LA area is just full of companies of all sizes. So they're available for internships, and our faculty, especially with international students, are very happy to supervise internships. Okay, go ahead, Aaron. Now, we are part of a consortium, and I'll talk about those other schools in a minute, okay, that offer similar degrees. Basically, what that means is, first of all, the consortium thinks highly enough of us to be part of it. I also happen to be on the board of directors of that consortium. We manage it between our semi-annual meetings. And we get a tremendous benefit out of that in a number of ways. First of all, obviously, personally, I enjoy working with all those other universities. We know about their programs. We know about their admission standards. We exchange all that information. So we have a very good idea of what the top market in engineering management looks like. In addition to that, as you may be able to see, it says EMSA on here. It says Engineering Management Student Association. And it's students in the program, also in industrial engineering, who put together meetings during the semester, inviting other companies to talk to us, to have social get-togethers. And of course, you get to eventually know your classmates very well, so that when you graduate, you have this long-term um, relationship. The last time I went back to my undergraduate reunion, which was 50 years, and that was a number of years ago. And, we were still friends after 50 years. The other thing about being in the consortium, you now become an alumnus of not just USC, but of all those other universities as well. So you're forming a very large support group. And the consortium actually does have a number of meetings, generally monthly, amongst alumni, prospective students, all of those. And so here they are. It's Cornell, Dartmouth, Duke, Johns Hopkins, MIT, Northwestern, Purdue, Tufts, and ourselves. We're at the bottom because we're last in the alphabet. The interesting thing about this is that we don't feel competitive with each other. The programs are very, very different. Dartmouth's program is 1/3 of our size. Duke's program is 2.5 our size. And MIT only admits people with 3 to 5 years of work experience. So each one of us is really quite different and has a different bent on it. Johns Hopkins is much more into entrepreneurship than as much as they are into management. So I've had wonderful pleasure working with all of these universities. And actually, I think we were the fifth one, I think, that joined this one. So we've been part of it since 2012. Okay, I think I'm ready for the next one. Jobs, majority are consulting jobs, there's no question about it. And most of them go into distribution in one way or another, but they go into manufacturing, they go into sales. Some people go on to law school. I mean, you get the full range of people. The companies, like say, you recognize every one of the major consulting companies hires our graduates. Right, Karen? I'm ready for the next one. Okay, down to brass tacks. What do you get if you come here? Well, besides going to a very good program, which I happen to really believe in, you come to a great university. I've been associated with the USC in one way or another since 1962 when I went to graduate school. And I did some consulting with other professors in the 1980s, and I've been here since 1990 as a professor. So I know it very well. And I also have been in Southern California since 1960, and it's one of the most wonderful places in the world. I have lived and taught in Paris, London, Madrid, Rome, and Florence. And I can tell you, this place is as good as any of those. And I was born in Budapest, which is also quite a nice city. Anyway, so what do you get besides? Well, we have core courses, 4 of them. Statistics, which is the one I teach to the students, and I've taught all the others as well, but recently I've only been teaching the 500. Basically, it's letting you know how to use statistics to make good decisions. And that's really the thrust of it. Engineering project management, kind of self-explanatory. You learn about the kind of people that manage projects, how you plan your project, how you staff it, how you fund it, and how you measure it, and how you conclude it. So it kind of steps you through all those steps. Getting to know how people behave and how to lead them and how to manage them is what it's ISC 544. It's the thing that I missed the most from my basic education. And I was extremely well versed in mathematics. I actually have the equivalent of a master's in mathematics, and I love it. But it's nowhere near as important as being able to deal with people, both in a positive and negative sense, because sometimes you have to get rid of people and you have to know how to do that as well. Fortunately, I've had very few occasions to do that. Engineering economy is all about finance, right? Money is what makes projects run. And you have to know how to get it, how to manage it, understand how companies get it, and most importantly, how to invest your own money so you can retire. Okay, so that's the basic, okay? Then the currently hottest topic clearly is analytics. To give you an idea of the growth in analytics, 3 years ago, we had 10 students in our analytics program. We now have 250, right? And that it's not just us, it's in the business school, it's in the public policy, it's big data and how to use it. And so we feel strongly that you should take at least one course. I listed 2 of them, but I'm open to approving any class that's graduate class, got analytics in the title, you can use it. Yeah. Technology is what drives the modern world. And we have a number of courses. I just shown one of them here in technology development and implementation, entrepreneurship, how to manage technology. So you can select amongst a number of courses. That's another required course, which gets us to 7. Let's see, that's 4 and 2, that's 6 required classes, which leaves you with 4 more. One of those is elective. You can pretty much do anything as long as I or somebody else in the department approves it. The other 3, can I have next slide, are broken into tracks, right? And I don't have the technology track on here. Okay. Could you help me the next one too, see if it shows the other tracks? No, it doesn't. Okay, go back. Obviously, there are 2 other tracks besides these 2, management, supply chain, analytics, and technology. Each of those, you select 3 classes, and you basically are majoring in that subset. Now, if you don't like one of those tracks, you come and meet with me and we sit down and we go through and select 3 classes that are consistent with what you want to actually do. Okay? Sometimes that's in your own field. Somebody will pick all industrial systems. Somebody will pick all biomedical. It all depends on what they're actually interested in. But in general, people tend to drift into management or supply chain. That's why I mentioned those 2. That's where most of the jobs are, especially supply chain. Okay, and then, like I say, the elective, a lot of people pick geez, I just lost the word, the internship to do this. And you can do more than that if you want to stick it into your track. Now, the other really good deal we have, remember all master's degrees require 30 units, which means if you get 2 of them, it costs you 60 units and it costs you extra time. Right? So we created these joint degrees. They're not joint, they're actually dual degrees, which means each degree is separate, right? And basically, the way we save the 12 units is you basically don't do a track, right? You do the basic required classes in each of your choices, and then you do the elective. And so you get 2 degrees for 2/3 of the price of 2 degrees. Now, obviously, you're going to spend another couple of years here, or at least another 1.5 years, which kind of puts you in the 3 to 3.5 year categories. But now you've also had a chance to vastly increase your knowledge. My original master's before my doctorate was in mechanical engineering, and it really made a big difference in my work. Because I really started working in an era where computers were being expanded, use of computers was expanding, the use of statistics was expanding, plastics were entering into and needed to be able to analyze, and I learned how to do all those things. Okay, I think I'm done with this slide as well. And Erin, it's all yours.
All right, thank you so much for all that insight, Professor Bottlik. And I did see some questions coming in. So as I mentioned before, we will have a Q&A session with Professor Bottlik at the end. So keep the questions coming. I promise we will get to them. But I do want to go over the enrollment options and applying, because I know we also had some questions about that. So in terms of the application criteria, now this is specifically for MS and Engineering Management program. So you do have to have an undergraduate degree in engineering, math, or hard science from a regionally accredited university. So during the application process, you would submit copies of your registrar issued transcripts that you would upload to the application system. To be competitive, although it's not required, we do recommend a GPA of a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale or above. But again, it's recommended. It's not required. So if you have less than a 3.0, don't let that completely discourage you. But there are other elements of your application that you can strengthen as well. We do review applications in a comprehensive manner. People will be excited for those that don't already know, but we, as of September 7th of last year, the GRE general test is not required for admission to Viterbi graduate degree programs, including the master's in engineering management. So it would not hurt you whatsoever to not submit those scores. You do not need
I want to interrupt you there, Erin,
Yeah,
because the not required actually referred to the era of the pandemic. And most schools are re-examining whether they're not going to require. So yes, currently it's not required. There's no guarantee that it's going to stay that way.
I agree. And so you should apply as early as possible. And we'll talk about deadlines in a bit as well. But that's definitely a great point. Thank you for that. And then in terms of the required materials, so a CV or resume is required, as well as a personal statement. And then 3 letters of recommendation are highly recommended. So in other words, you should submit those. And they can be from a manager, a supervisor, former professors, a professional colleague, etc. And then for those of you that are international applicants, the TOEFL may or may not be required depending on also where you earned your undergraduate degree from.
Before you leave this slide, Erin, I want to say one more thing about the GPA. Our admissions process, obviously we get a lot of applications.
Yeah.
And so I don't actually get involved in the basic process. However, when people are at the edge around 2.8, 2.9, I get to review all those applications. So you can rest assured that you're going to get a very thorough look. And that's why other things actually matter, whether just your GPA.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that. And I did see is the IELTS accepted, and that, yes, the IELTS are also accepted. All right. For international applicants, for English proficiency, I should say. All right, now in terms of the application deadline, so for fall 2022, the application deadline has passed for those that are interested in pursuing their program on campus, but we also have extended the deadline for those that are planning to pursue their program completely online via Viterbi. So if you are interested in applying for fall 2022, which starts in August, you're planning to pursue your program fully online and do not require an F1 student visa at any point in your program, then we do encourage you to email viterbi.usc.edu for more information about that deadline, extended deadline. But otherwise, the next available to everyone, whether online or on campus, is going to be spring 2023. That's going to start in January of 2023. So the deadline for scholarship consideration, and this is for on-campus applicants only, is going to be August 31st of this year. And then for the deadline to submit all your required materials, that's going to be September 15th of this year. And then if spring 2023 is too soon, then we have fall 2023, which would be August of 2023. The deadline to submit all required materials is going to be January 15th, 2023. And then the scholarship consideration deadline, again, on campus only, is going to be December 15th of 2022. You do see the asterisk there. Again, if for those of you that are planning to pursue your program online via Dana Viterbi, always reach out to us if you get close to a deadline and you want additional time or need additional time. Feel free to reach out to us to confirm whether or not you can still apply, and Marilyn and I will confirm that as early as possible with you. All right, so we have two, main delivery options. So we have our on-campus students who typically go full-time and are taking 3 classes per semester, typically graduating about 1.5 to 2 years. And then we have our online Dana Viterbi students. And because the large majority of our online students tend to be working full-time professionals, although it's not required, they tend to take 1 or 2 courses per semester just because that's doable and they can handle that with their work-life balance. And then, on average, they're graduating about 2.5 to 3.5 years, depending. But it's flexible. So, as long as you complete your degree within 5 years, and you can even petition for additional 2 years, then it is really up to you in terms of how many courses you take per semester as a Dana Viterbi student, and whether you take courses during the summer, which is optional. Now, in terms of how Dana Viterbi works, so Dana Viterbi is our online delivery method, and it is our own proprietary web-based delivery system. So Dana Viterbi is definitely something that's unique to the Viterbi School, and we have been in the distance education arena well before, the World Wide Web was available. We actually have nearly 50 years of experience. And so well before the pandemic, we've had this online delivery method, which essentially means that you can watch the lectures in one of 3 ways. So you can watch the lectures live as they're happening, typically on USC's campus. That would enable you to call in during the live sessions. You can chat your questions during the session as well. And so you would be able to interact on the spot that way. Now, if you're not able to attend the live sessions, you also can, or if you want to watch the session again, each of the online lectures are also recorded. They then, within a 24-hour period, oftentimes less, will be available through the course recording archives, and you can watch it as many times as you need to until the end of the semester when it's no longer available. And in addition, as Professor Bottlik mentioned, you're welcome to come to campus. So you do have a seat in the classroom as well, and you can come and interact with the faculty and fellow students. They love, your faculty love meeting their online students, especially if they don't get to see them all the time. So that's definitely a possibility as well. And then in terms of the homework and exams, so your homework is the same. You have the same faculty, you're in the same courses as the on-campus students. It just really depends in terms of your location, in terms of, where you take your exams. So on a normal basis, you would take your exams at USC's campus in Los Angeles if you're in the Los Angeles, Orange, or Ventura counties. Now, if you're outside of those areas, you would take your exams at a proctor location that is conveniently located in your area, wherever you're located, and you would take the exams as close to the exam time that it's taking place on USC's campus as possible. And we do have a dedicated Dana Viterbi exam coordinator that can also assist with scheduling at a proctor site as well, or even if you need to travel, as long as you let her know within, at least 2 weeks in advance, then she can help assist with finding a location as well. So this gives you a side-by-side comparison. I know some of you may be debating, should I be an online student versus an on-campus student? And in terms of the program admission, it's exactly the same in terms of the application required materials. There's no difference whatsoever. You're applying to engineering management program. You're not applying for, a delivery method, right? Although you would indicate in your application whether you're planning to pursue your program online via Dana Viterbi or not. Again, as I mentioned, weekly course lectures, assignments, exams are exactly the same. Just note though that, on-campus students only have access to the course recordings if there's at least one Denevich B online student in the classroom. So if you need those recordings, if you need to be online, we do encourage you to pursue your program online if needed. And then in terms of your exams, again, depends on where you're located. Courses per semester, I talked about already. Degree completion requirements are exactly the same. So 27 and 37 units with a 3.0 GPA or above. And there's absolutely no distinction on your diploma, whether an online versus an on-campus student. So there's no distinction on your diploma, no distinction on your transcript. You're earning the same exact degree, whether you pursue it online or on campus. Now, just some additional information. So for those of you that are interested in getting started as early as possible, say as early as this coming summer, which starts in May, you could potentially get started as a limited status student as long as you have an undergrad degree in engineering, math, or hard science. And it does have to be at least a cumulative GPA of at least a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. So that is specific to limited status. Now, if you don't have a 3.0, as we talked about earlier, you're still welcome to apply for formal admission, and we actually encourage you to apply for that instead. That way your application can be reviewed in a comprehensive manner. It's not just based off of your GPA. And then as a limited status student, there's a maximum of 12 units you can enroll in. And it's very important to note that it's a great way to get a jump start in taking courses, but you still have to formally apply for admission, and it doesn't guarantee that you'll be formally admitted. So just a note there. So if you are interested in getting started as early as possible, I do encourage you to visit the links provided there. Again, we will be sending a follow-up email and with the presentation slides, so you will have these in addition. And also we do have what's called the employer reimbursement deferment program. It's basically something that allows you to, for those whose companies pay for their tuition or part of their tuition, they can defer their upfront payment until after the end of the semester is over. So if this applies to you, you can also take a look at that employer reimbursement deferment program.
Erin, I had a question on that slide.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is limited status available to on-campus students?
That's a great question. So yes, it is as well, but they do have to go through the department. So limited status students that are online, they typically go and work with Patty Reinhardt, who works with as our advisor for limited status students. On-campus students would have to request it through the department, and the department also would have to approve it, kind of like at the department level as well. Because some departments may or not, honor it. So, but yes, that's a great question. So it is definitely.
I had to bring it up because that's how I started. And what actually happened, I decided in July that I wanted to start that fall. And I did get permission, and I did get started, and I foolishly took 3 classes. But
that's a lot. Yes.
And
I was working too.
I was working full time, and we had 2 babies in diapers.
Oh wow! Yeah. Well, so, you're a superstar. So.
Yeah, well, it was a mistake. I should have taken 2.
And so that's why 1 to 2 classes, I think, is you can still somewhat have a life with especially 1 class, 2 classes. Okay.
I was playing chess tournament chess games too, so it was really loading it up.
Love it.
But when you're 22, you think you can do anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You have the energy though too. All right. So in terms of tuition, this is our current tuition structure for graduate engineering computer science courses. So it's based off of per unit. So each semester, it's based off of the number of units that you enroll in per term. The tuition is the same whether you're online versus on campus. No difference because you're in the same program courses. And then there are some per semester fees that you'll want to take into consideration. So you'll want to always refer to that link there because they are also subject to change in terms of the tuition and fees. So to get started, for those of you that are interested in taking classes on campus, you can, you're welcome to visit campus, but there's virtual tours that you can take as well. And of course, start your application for formal admission. For those that are interested in taking classes online via Viterbi, definitely start your application as well. Or if you'd like to start as limited status student as early as summer 2022, you can complete that Denim Viterbi profile. And we also have some limited status webinars as upcoming webinars as well. But we're going to now do the Q&A session as promised. So I'm going to take a look at the Q&A that came in already. So, okay. So I see a question here. It says, I come from a biotechnology background aiming to dig deeper into tech and management. Would that act as a hindering factor while applying to the university and getting job placements after? As I research and according to data, majority of people join with computer science, mechanical, etc. background.
Okay, do you want me to take that?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. Well, if biotechnology, I assume, I know it's another science. Okay. So I'm assuming you have a reasonable background in maybe three or four classes in mathematics, like calculus and linear algebra or something similar. And of course, with an undergraduate degree, whether it's mechanical, biomedical, biotechnology, you really want to get that first job in your own industry, right? Yeah. So this degree would only enhance your ability to do that. It's not going to give you access to get a mechanical engineering job. So yeah, I think for initial jobs, you need to stick fairly closely to your undergraduate degree, especially if it's any kind of technology degree. But no, and I think the same person asked what an IEL, IEL, yeah. I don't know what that is.
So the IELTS is essentially another type of examination for English proficiency. And so, yes, we do accept that, the IELTS, the TOEFL or the IELTS is what you would need to take. So yes, I can answer any of the admission questions, and there are some here as well. So is there legacy status considered at all for MS application? So I think when you mean by legacy, as in I'm not sure if that means you're an alumnus or if you had maybe a parent that was a USC alum, but in terms of for those that might be alumni, I think, it's again important to note that, of course, first and foremost, they're going to take a look at your undergraduate performance and background. Of course, like having a USC degree is great, but I can't speak to how much that will, be weighted and valued. Of course, you're going to be looked at comprehensively as well. But, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Professor Bottlik. Would you have more insight into?
No, just because your parents went here.
Yeah.
Dad, $5 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
Exactly. So yeah, it's not one where like, oh, my parents went, so I'm definitely going to get in. It doesn't quite work that way, but of course we'll take a look at, everything, your complete packages of background of all elements of your application. And then, so another question is, would starting in spring have the same or greater probability for admission? So that's a great question, but we, in terms of the application criteria, it's the same. And so with spring, typically, we tend to get more applications during the fall just for, a number of different reasons, but it's not, it's not like if you apply for spring, you're definitely you have a higher chance of getting in versus the fall. There's really no difference there. So you don't have to worry about, should I apply for spring or fall based off of probability of getting admitted. Ultimately it depends on, how many great candidates that are considered admissible in that regard. Okay, this next question is for you, Professor Bottlik. It's one that I'm sure you hear all the time, which is, what are the differences and similarities between the MS in engineering management and the MBA?
Oh, you got my favorite question.
Yeah.
Yes, it definitely is. In fact, we conducted a whole seminar in India on nothing but that. They're really aimed for very different future career paths. Okay, the engineering management degree is exactly that. It really is intended for you to manage engineers, which means you manage projects, you manage products, your product management and project management, and just simply supervising a number of technologists who are doing technical work. Okay, so in that, so that's pretty much what it actually is. Okay, now an MBA is if you're interested in finance, in marketing, right, in economics, they're basically finance jobs, right? They're jobs having to do with money. You're not managing people, you're managing money, and you're managing organizations. Now, it's a vast difference between managing engineering groups versus organizations. Now, that's not to say that somebody who's managed engineers through 2 or 3 levels of management isn't now capable of managing an organization that goes beyond engineering. But that's not what this degree actually gets you started on. That would be up to you to get to that point. Now, it would be eventually, if you decide you really want to be a CEO or somebody, a CFO or somebody in that structure, then yeah, go ahead and get an MBA degree as well. But don't start with the MBA unless that's what you know you want to do.
Great. Thank you for that.
Now, I want to say one other thing, though, is that as an engineering undergraduate, you have a lot of leverage in an MBA program. Right? And MBA programs are more expensive. They take more time, and they're more oriented towards the top schools. Right? So you don't want to get an MBA at not a top school because it's not going to do anything for you.
Gotcha. Great to know. Okay, this next one is, are there any courses available as electives in energy and sustainability?
You got me at a loss, actually. I think that our civil engineering department is very much into sustainability. And so I'm pretty sure they have classes in that area. But the easiest way to answer your question is go to the public schedule of classes, look on the civil and environmental engineering and see what's actually there. And be sure to look at both the fall and the spring semester schedule of classes, because that way you see just about everything that's offered. And if there's a third semester shown, look there too, because there are classes, that are not oversubscribed. So they're only given every second or third year.
Great. Let's see. And then I have another in the Q&A. So there's Q&A in chat. So the Q&A, can you please elaborate on types of military backgrounds that previous students possessed when they were accepted in the program? In my case, I'm a military pilot with BS in mechanical engineering from over 10 years ago, though. Thank you. So, well, I guess I can say,
okay, wait a minute.
In terms of admission.
I was still thinking about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was going to just say,
Okay.
like, in terms of.
Well, I think I'm going to try and answer this in general, in terms of people who have been out of school for quite a while. And I would say that anybody that's more than 3 or 4 years out, right, has long forgotten what it's like to study and are busy with other things, right? And that's fine. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, because I think that you bring a lot of other positives to the program in the first place, right? You bring experience, you bring maturity, you bring knowledge about the outside world. And as such, you have a lot to contribute. I don't want to fool you. You're going to have to work hard in the beginning to actually get back in the swing of realizing that, if you take 2 classes, right, and think this through, that's about 6 hours a week, right? Which means that at the very minimum, you got to spend 12 more hours doing studying and doing homework. Now, if you're real fast, maybe you can get away with 9 or 10 hours. But most people, especially if you got a lot of trying to remember stuff and And, we're all the same. We forget the details. And if you're good, you remember the generalities. And so, yeah, so I strongly suspect, never take 3 classes like I did. But I was only 1 year out of undergrad. I was a year and a half out of undergraduate. So I was still very much connected to schools. And I had a hard time with 3 classes. So, yeah, I would encourage you to do it. And I think your maturity will carry you through the fact that you got some catching up to do in terms of getting into the swing of things.
Yeah, great. And I also just wanted to touch upon in terms of like, the military backgrounds that have been accepted. We have had active duty military, we've had those, and of course, a number of US veterans that have been, whether they just were recently out of the military service versus many, many years ago too. So, we have definitely admitted those as well. And military experience is something that is valued. I do encourage you to talk about it in your application as well, whether via your personal statements. We also do have an application fee waiver for our military and veteran US students. So feel free to connect with me, Edward, on that as well. And I'm happy to provide additional information too. And then let's see, other questions. So do health tech / biotech companies come to recruit for on-campus placement? In-campus placement.
Say that one again, Erin.
Do health tech / biotech companies come to recruit for?
I can't answer for sure, but we get hundreds and hundreds of companies coming on campus. I'd be very surprised if they're not. The other thing I want to mention is that, the engineering management program is in the industrial and systems engineering department. And part of that department, we also have a degree in health management. And so we obviously are connected as a department with the health industry.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's great to know. But definitely, there are definitely a number of health and biotech companies that I have seen when I've participated in the career fairs. Viterbi, just so you know, Viterbi Career Connections is its own in-house career group where they put on career fairs, they do on-campus interviews, they do a number of networking sessions, and that's in addition to the larger USC career fairs that we have as well. So, Viterbi is, that Career Connections is fantastic. And so, there's our students are definitely highly sought out. I see that all the time. And then I know another one here says, I came from a Polytechnic University for my undergrad, Cal Poly Pomona, with a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace and minor in Material Science. How different would USC Masters in Engineering Management instruction be to projects-based coursework?
I missed it, Terrence. Sorry, but
okay.
I wandered off. What was the question?
So how different would a USC Master's in Engineering Management instruction be to projects-based coursework? So I'm assuming, I guess I'm not too sure.
Okay, I don't think in general, most of the classes are not project-based. We don't have a lot of people who believe in examples, from industry. We basically teach basic knowledge, and that's what most of us do. Clearly, in the project management class, the professors always run a project, so you would get that experience. I know that the professor in engineering economy also does a project. So it actually depends on, I've kind of found that doing a project in class tends to detract from the time that you have to learn the material. And so I personally generally don't do that, except of course in a project management class.
Great. And then just 2 more questions. What percentage of accepted students have over 6 years of work experience, or maybe kind of a general bar? I don't expect you have the exact percentage, obviously.
My data are a couple of years old, but about 2 years ago, I went through about 2,500 applications and admits and actually performance in the classes subsequently to that. And I don't think there's much connection to what your work background is, the school that you come from. Um, Basically, performance in a degree is really very much an individual thing. Now, clearly, the stronger background you have, the better shot you have at it. But that does not keep other people from succeeding.
Right. And then just this last question I'll answer. So can you please expand on how or who would be the best people to have a letter recommendation from and what they should speak to most? So, as I mentioned before, I think this is a pretty personalized question, right? You may have a manager or supervisor that would be really fantastic, but you also might have a faculty member that, knows you really well. So I would say a combination of those would probably be your best bet, especially since 3 are highly recommended. I think that would be great, but ultimately, the relationships that you have with your recommenders, and ultimately somebody that can speak to your caliber in terms of obviously your anything from work experience to your academic performance, your any leadership skills that you may possess, or any awards or anything that they can really provide that can add value beyond what you have included in other areas of your application. I would say
I can tell you kind of a funny story on what not to do.
Okay. Great.
A couple of years ago, I had a student write to me, would you please write a recommendation for me? And he was about 5 years back. So I keep a very good database. So I can look them up, right? So I wrote back to him. I said, I don't think you want me to write a recommendation. You got a D in my class.
Mm.
So
Yeah. So try to be,
before you ask,
that you did well.
remember what your relationship with the person was.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Great. All right. So we went through these, actually, these were covered in the session, so I won't go through those. But I wanted to say, thank you all. I know we came to the end of this, and thanks for those that stayed on a little bit past. But if you have any questions beyond this, for those that are interested in pursuing their program on campus, you can go to that link there. And then for those that are interested in pursuing their program online, Dana Viterbi.usc.edu goes to my colleague Marilyn and we make every effort to respond within a 24 hours, normal business days. But we thank you so much for joining this session. Of course, I have to thank Professor Bottlik for your continued support, and we are just, again, we're so incredibly lucky to have you, and thank you for all your insight. I'm sure the audience has really appreciated it as well. But I look forward to hearing from all of you online. Have a great rest of your day, and as we see at USC, bye, Don.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.